Hello guys, happy birthday mommy. I just thought you guys might like that song, a little token from an Australian. Hope you noticed the Vegemite reference, mommy. Well, I thought I'd make this tape. I thought it would be a better way to talk about my trip for everyone and just let you know what's going on. I forget so many things over the phone and I get lazy when we type on email, so I thought this would be a good way to do it. Not too much going on here today. I don't have any classes. I just got these pictures reprinted for everyone, so it's busy sending them off, and I have a paper due tomorrow, so I'm going to start working on that. Last night we went to the opera, and it was a really nice day. We went into, Carrie and I went into Sydney early, and went to the store, the Red Earth. One of your presents is from there, Mommy. I got Lisa a little present from there, too. And then we met up with two friends, two Mikes. One's from Indiana and one's from CU. And we met up with Daphne and Ann, who are both from CU. And we all went out to dinner together, which was nice. We went to this Italian restaurant and had some real pasta. And then we made it just in time for the opera. It was the Marriage of Figaro. It was really nice. We were in the front row, which right by the orchestra pit, which was really nice actually. It's the cheapest seats in the house, but I thought they were still really good. And the opera was funny, which I was surprised. And it was in English, but there were also subtitles, which you needed a couple times. But it was really just a perfect night. It's warm out now, so it was a nice night in Sydney, and downtown Sydney and the Opera House both look beautiful, all lit up. So it was a very nice night. And not doing much today, like I said. I just wanted to tell you about my trip, and Mommy wish you a happy birthday in person. I want you to go ahead and open these presents. Some of them are just little tokens from Tasmania. The one in the brown bag's from Tasmania, and the other one, which you'll know what I'm talking about, is from Cairns. These markets in Cairns, and then the one is from the Red Earth store, which I thought you'd like. It's kind of like the Body Shop of Australia. And then just a little something for you, Daddy, too, because I didn't want to send a package without having anything for you. So I hope you like that, and I'm sure you'll figure out where it's from when you open it. But, so, hello, Ma and Bones and David. I'm sure Mom and Daddy will let you listen to this, too. Hope everyone's doing really well. And I just wanted to tell you about my trip. So, first, Carrie and I went to Tasmania on September 23rd. We were there till the 27th. It's really hot now in Fairy Meadow, and it's cool down in Tasmania, so we went from like 25 degrees to 5 degrees, my temperature, but it was really nice. We arrived at night, and it was kind of rainy. Just took an airport shuttle into the center of town, which is where our hostel was. It was a really nice hostel. This cute little couple ran it. And didn't do much that night since we got in so late. Next morning we walked through the old district of town. There's this area called the Salamanca Place and Battery Point, and it's just warehouses, and then there's fruit markets and art museums and shops in there. So we just walked around there, which is really pretty. Didn't do much. We rented a car that day, a little Laser, an 84 Laser, and it was really fun to drive. Carrie and I both drove, but I had to sign for it since I was the only one that's 21, and so I was the one who had to drive it out of the shop. As soon as we get out of the shop, we got on this road that ended up turning into a highway, which scared me to death. I was in the middle lane, cars on both sides of me, and then the highway went over this Tasman bridge, which is kind of like the Van Buren Bridge. It's hard to drive if you're not used to it. But Carrie really is a sweet girl, and she talked me through it, told me like where I was in the lane and stuff, so it's hard. Plus in Australia, there's roundabouts everywhere, and those can be confusing. There's like one almost every other block, but it was really fun to drive. So we drove up a little outside of Hobart to Mount Wellington, drove up a mountain. Hobart's really beautiful. There's all these trees right now that have these yellow blossoms. It's really surprising because it looks like fall when it's the end of winter, but it's beautiful. And so as we drove up the mountain, there's just forests and forests of these trees. And then it's strange because you get to the top of the mountain, and it's more like bushland. There's hardly any trees, it's just shrubs. and snow, so it was really neat. It was a lot different. And then at the top of Mount Wellington was a beautiful view of Hobart, which is a really neat city. Also that day we went to the Tulip Festival, which there's a picture of some tulips, Mommy, for you from the festival, at the Tasmanian Botanical Gardens, which were really pretty. Just tons and tons of tulips, really. And there's also something, Bones, that I thought with your green thumb we should try. They're called Down Under pots, and it's really neat. It's just like a normal, almost like a vase pottery, and the very bottom, there's a hole at the bottom, and basically once you put in like this mesh and you let the plant mix soak in with water for a couple weeks, the plant begins to grow from the bottom, and then it grows up and kind of surrounds the pot. It's really pretty. It's kind of hard to explain, but I have the instructions on how to do it, so hopefully we can get that growing. I think you can even do it with impatience, Mommy, so that'd be fun to try. The next day we left Hobart and drove up to Launceston, which is at the very other end of the island. It's about a 2.5-hour drive, and all of Tasmania is beautiful. It's how I'd picture Ireland. It's all green rolling hills and beautiful, beautiful trees, tons of farmland, tons of sheep. So it was a really pretty drive. Kind of reminded me of when you get into hilly Missouri. It's beautiful. So we got into Launceston, and we stayed at this hostel that was renovated by this couple. It was just a little house. It was really neat. It had hardwood floors, and plus you could go into dinner in town, and if you said that you were staying at the hostel, they'd give you a discount on the meal, and give you a bigger meal too. I guess they think we're all starving backpackers, but that was really nice. And the next day we went to Launceston Gorge, which was really pretty. There's different walks you could go on, and we went on a daffodil walk, and there's just patches and patches of wild daffodils. It was really pretty. And this is kind of spooky, Mommy. I have a story for you. We were driving along past this development, and you could tell these houses had just been built. All of a sudden, Kara looks over. She says, "That's what I had a dream about." She remembers before she came dreaming about these houses that were being built, and like she remembers seeing kids playing in the dirt and stuff, but couldn't picture where it was, but she always remembered the dream. And then right at that split second when she saw this, she knew that was what she had been dreaming about. It's kind of spooky. I know you don't believe that stuff, Daddy, but I like the story. Anyway, so from Launceston, after the gorge, we drove up to Devonport, which is, there's really not much in Devonport. We basically got directions on a place to stay in a hostel near the Cradle Mountain area so that we could just get up in the morning and go hiking really early. So once we stopped there, we got into the Cradle Mountain area. We got a hostel, and then about 2 kilometers up the road is the Cradle Mountain Lodge, where there's a restaurant and stuff. So we went in and had dinner there, and this is really spooky. There's all kinds of cabins you can stay in if you're staying at the lodge, go on lakes and stuff, but there's possums come out at night, and there's just tons and tons of animals. I think they look like fat rats. They're disgusting. These possums just come out of nowhere at night, and like I think people come to look at them. There's tons of people out there taking pictures, and it's mentioned in one of my traveler books about all the animals that come out at night. That's kind of interesting. Also, the stars were incredible that night. We saw the Milky Way like I've never seen it. It was completely across the sky. And also, the Southern Cross is really neat to see. Also, one of my favorite Southern Crosby, Stills, and Nash songs. But anyway, that was really beautiful. The next morning, we woke up and drove about 2 kilometers into Cradle Mountain, which is the Tasmanian National Park, and we hiked up to the top of Marion's Point, which is overlooking all of the peaks. We hiked up to Cradle Mountain, the top of that peak, the article that you sent me, Daddy. I saw all of that, and Cradle Lake. We hiked past the Wombat Pools, and it's an amazing hike. You start out, and it's really weird. There's like planks of wood that lead you up to the mountain, because all the land is really mushy bushland, and I guess it's been eroded from people walking on it, so they had to build this path, but it just seems really odd. There's just a straight path for about 3 kilometers, and then you reach the mountain, and then you start a normal hike. But it was different, and the lakes are beautiful. It's just peaks of mountains with the lakes in between, like pools of water, which you really can't get to. So it was really, there's nothing like it in Colorado, believe it or not, Bones. But I really enjoyed that. It's very beautiful up there. And let's see, after Cradle Mountain, we drove back down through the center of the island. Tasmania was really easy to get around. It was really easy to figure out where we were driving, and it's a lot smaller than I thought. We drove through the center of the island and past the Great Lakes. It's really nice, and then back into Hobart. And the next morning we left. We had a long day of traveling the next day, so but Tasmania was amazing. It is how I picture Ireland, just green and beautiful for the end of winter. It's really amazing. I'd like to go back there. Let's see, the next day then, Carrie and I started our travel to Darwin. We had 2 layovers in Melbourne and Adelaide, so it took about all day to get to Darwin. We got in really late, really tired from all the layovers. Met up with the hostel we were staying with picked us up, so they brought us back to the hostel. It was called Frog Hollow. It seems like Melrose. That's where I called you guys from. It had a pool, 2 hot tubs, all these people just hanging out, all open. All doors were open. It was really neat. The people you meet at hostels are really neat. I mean, I met this one guy that went to St. Vincent's for preschool, lived in Park Hill, knows all my friends that live in Park Hill, knows the Beatties. I met this other kid that went to high school with one of my good friends, Kelly Dwyer at CU. Just people all over, and then even people that you meet traveling. Like we stayed with some girls in a hostel in Hobart, and we saw them again in Launceston, and then saw them again in Darwin. So that was really neat. Plus, we ran into a lot of people from school that we knew, so it was neat. But I liked the hostel a lot that we stayed in Darwin. The next morning, Carrie and I walked into town. Darwin reminds me a lot more of Kauai, a lot of the red dirt, plumeria trees. I did see papaya trees too, Daddy. They weren't ripe yet. And there's a lot more Aboriginals that live in Darwin, which was interesting to see. It's a lot more diverse than Wollongong is. That day, Carrie and I picked plumerias, and I showed her how to make leis. And when Daphne and Anne, who were in Perth while we were in Tasmania, came in, we greeted them with leis, so that was really nice. And that was Thursday, and Thursday night there's markets on Mindle Beach, so everyone goes to these different markets. It's just arts and crafts stuff, and watch the sunset on Mindle Beach, which was really pretty. I sent you the picture of that sunset. And then that night, our hostel said the town cultural center was having an Aboriginal band play, and so we went to go see it. And Anne and Daphne went back, but Carrie and I went, and we were literally the 2 only white people there, which we thought this was great. We're finally meeting some true Aboriginals. And at first it was really nice. We started talking to them, and then we noticed different things, like a couple of them both said they were handicapped, things like that, to get sympathy. And then the bartender came over and told us to watch our wallets. And then we noticed that they started asking for money and stuff, so it was really sad. We realized basically the only reason that they were talking to us was for that reason. So it was kind of enlightening. There was a lot of stereotypes about them down in Wollongong, about being alcoholics and wanting nothing to do with the white men, and you do see a lot of that. It's sad because they're pretty much the homeless. There's a lot of tension between the white Australians and Aboriginals. But the next day we left for our safari for Kakadu. Kakadu is about a 4-hour drive away. Most people go to Darwin only for Kakadu. Darwin's in such a harsh environment. The biggest city closest to them, I think, is Adelaide, which is about a 10-hour drive, so they're really isolated. They're called the top end of Australia, and their climate's really hard. It's usually between 32 and 38 degrees, which is in the 90s all year long. Their beaches, a lot of times you can't swim in because there's jellyfish and crocodiles, and so it's really a different place. It's really the tough Australia that you imagine. Kakadu was really neat. It's a national park. A lot of the areas where Crocodile Dundee was filmed. It's now Aboriginal land again. It was given back to them. First thing we did on our safari, the guide picked us up. There was about 20 people in our group. And we stopped at these termite mounds. I don't know, Dad, if you know anything about them. They're really odd. They're huge. Some of them are about 20 feet tall, and they're made out of soil. The termites just build homes for themselves, basically, that have the right air temperature, so it's cool enough for them in these mounds. And then the mounds die after 50 years. It's really weird. I have pictures of them. But we drove on to Mary River, which is the most crocodile-infested river in the world, and took these speedboats out. We have 4 people in a boat, so I got a chance to drive the boat down rivers where there was saltwater and freshwater crocodiles in different spots. And that was really neat. You see a ton. They just hang out on the side with their mouths open. And for every one you see, there's 9 you don't. So that's kind of spooky knowing they're underneath you. And you can only go at high tide, otherwise you can get trapped out there because the water goes down. There's tons of water lilies too. In fact, our guide took out the seed in the middle of the lilies, and you could eat it. I guess Aboriginals used to eat them. So that was exciting. We also went swimming in a billabong. This is where my surfing wetsuit comes from, and surfboard. And that's about it for that day. The next day, we did a hike. That picture of me sitting Indian style is at the top of one of our hikes. It's also where an area that was specifically in the movie Crocodile's Envy. And there we saw a ton of Aboriginal artwork. Since the Aboriginals own it, there's a lot of land that we're not allowed to see. But and they also passed down Dreamtime tales, which are their children's stories, and those are the only ones that white men are allowed to hear. So along with the art, we heard the Dreamtime tales, which is really neat about what the painting is about. Some of the paintings were over 20,000 years old, which is really amazing. And they're just on the face of the rock. We swam in a lot of waterfalls and natural pools. One was really neat. We had masks on, and to reach another pool, you had to swim underwater and through a cave to get to the next pool and up. So that was really neat. I love stuff like that. And there was a place Mommy liked, Bass Rock. You could jump off into a deep pool, and so that was really fun. And we had a fun day seeing all the artwork and stuff. Let's see, then the third day of the safari, that night for dinner, we had crocodile, emu, and kangaroo. I only tried crocodile. I wasn't brave enough. Eating kangaroo to me seems like eating deer, but it is really popular here. People really do eat kangaroos. Kangaroos are more of a nuisance because they're all over the place. Then a treasure, how we would think of them. Let's see, the third day, we went on a rainforest walk, which was incredible. I looked up, and in these trees there were tons and tons of bats sleeping, which was really weird to see bats, and also tons of butterflies, which was really pretty. A lot of the walks we went on was really strange. Most of the time, in Kakadu there's wet and dry season, and so the waterfall picture I sent of you, the wet season's almost over, so you can see the waterfalls kind of drying up in the distance, and so when it's in the heart of the wet season, a lot of the hikes we went on would be rivers then. And you can see in the top of the trees all kind of debris, and that's where the top of the river normally is. So it's eerie because you're walking through these trails that in 4 months will be the bottom of a river. So that was really neat. The seasons are different. Kakadu changes extremely in the wet and dry seasons, and we hit it at a good time. The heart of the wet season is a little better, but it was like the most famous falls, Jim Jim, are dried up, but we still saw a lot of the pretty ones. See, we did some more swimming in billabongs, and that was about it. And let's see if I remember everything. Oh, part of Kakadu, on one of the hikes you're overlooking Death Valley, and the Aboriginals don't allow any man, whether white or Aboriginal, into it because they believe that if you walk into that land, the earth will swallow you up and it will be the beginning of time again, and no man will exist. It's kind of interesting, I thought. Let's see. Oh, I also sat on the Buffalo Charlie that's in the movie Crocodile Dundee, the most famous movie star of Australia. Let's see, I think I told you everything about Kakadu and Darwin. We just went back that night and then flew to Cairns the next day. And Cairns is by far my favorite. There aren't any beaches in Cairns, which is surprising. You would think with the Great Barrier Reef. Like outside of our hostel was right on the shore. There's just mud flats, and then when the tide comes in, there's water. But very, very different. Had a long day of traveling. We had to catch a 3:30 a.m. flight, and plus it was an international flight, so we had to be there 2 hours early. But so we slept basically mostly our first day. Second day we took a sailboat trip out to the Green Island. The Green Island is an amazing island that's right on the Great Barrier Reef. Took this sailboat out tour, and they dropped us off away from the island, right on the reef. The reef is amazing. As you approach it, you can see the brown patches in the water. You can see miles and miles of reef. And just jumped out when snorkeling. It's warm enough now in the water to swim without a wetsuit. And had my mask from home, thank you Bones and David, and went and fins and went snorkeling. And the coral is just incredible. I've never seen anything like it. It's blues and purples and yellows, and then just tons of fish, and it's fun to dive down and see all the fish hiding within the coral. And parts of it too, the coral goes so high to the surface you can't swim above it, because you have to be really careful, obviously not to touch it, because it kills 150 years worth of growth. But it's just amazing. I had the best time snorkeling. The next day we went on our dive. We went through Down Under Dive, and we did a 2-day boat dive. Went out to the boat that was docked on the reef. Went to 4 different spots on the reef, which is just amazing. The first dive, most of the people on the boat were beginners. The first dive, since we were all certified, we went out with the guides since we had just become certified, but then the other 3 dives we did by ourselves. So that was fun, planning all of our dives. First dive we went to McMalamus Reef. If you guys have books on the Great Barrier Reef, I'm not sure. You can look it up. We went down 15 meters, which is about 45 feet, for 21 minutes. The first dive highlight, saw a stingray. The water was just amazing warm. Even down that far, it was 25 degrees, just in the 80s. Just beautiful. Second dive, we went to Norman Reef. Went down 12 meters for about 23 minutes. Saw a turtle. It's kind of neat. All the people that work on the ship know all the fish that come in that area and will swim under the boat while they're docked there. So we saw this raz named Wally, this huge fish that had these eyes on the side of its head that just moved back and forth, and would watch your hands to see if you touched your pocket and looked like you were getting food. It's really neat. He's kind of human-like. Let's see. Then the next day we did 2 more dives, both on Saxon Reef. And those were definitely my best dives so far. The first dive was early in the morning, and there was just tons of fish. As soon as you get in the water, there were tons of fish. Normally you get in, go down, descend, and then swim out to the reef. But as soon as I got in the water, there were just tons of huge fish by the ship, and it was just beautiful. Saw tons of trumpet fish, and as you approach the coral, it's amazing. There's like 3 levels of coral, so you can be just as high. It's amazing just how deep it goes, and then the levels of coral, and you swimming in and out of it is so much fun. The last dive, I saw a reef shark, which to Bones and David, it was a great white shark. Which was really neat. I heard there were a bunch of reef sharks once you got to a certain area of the reef, and I really wanted to see one before we left, and I did, so that was exciting. The reef was just amazing. I hope, Bones and David, that you come back one day and we can all dive together with Lisa. That would be really fun, and I'm really glad I got the chance to do it. It was just incredible. It's indescribable. basically that's all we did in Cairns. We stayed for a couple more days, and then decided to fly home. It's about 51 hours from Cairns to Wollongong, and we just weren't up to it after 2 weeks of traveling. So, so that's the end of the trip. It was really amazing, and I thank you all for your help in getting me there, and also all the letters. I love getting all your mail, and the emails have been great. I don't know what else to say. Things are going really quick here now that spring break's over. It makes me very sad to think there's only 2 months left here. This weekend, my friend Belle from Australia is having us up to Sydney. She's a sweetheart. She's going to have Thanksgiving dinner for us, which is so thoughtful considering she's Australian and they really don't celebrate Thanksgiving. But that should be really exciting. She is trying to get a visa for the U.S. She wants to go traveling all around the U.S. Her dad lives in California a couple times. Anyway, she might talk to Lisa's manager about getting a job because she wants to go to Hawaii and she needs to have a job set before she can get into the country. So that would be really exciting. She might be in Boulder for her graduation. But I really love it here. The people are so laid back, so friendly. It's funny though, there's jokes about them, like what's the difference between a yogurt and an Australian if you let them set for 200 years. And it's a yogurt develops a culture, which is kind of true. They're so laid back that you can't really categorize what they're about, or I don't know. They're just very, very friendly people. Most people I've met don't really like Americans. They're fascinated by your accent, and everyone asks where you're from, and then when you say you're from Colorado, it's always, do you ski? But deep down, really, no one likes Americans, which does get hard after a while. But it's not like places I would think in Europe where they're rude to you because you're American. That's not it at all. I've met some of the nicest people I've ever met here. Most of my Australian friends were all surfers, which was kind of funny. I've been loving surfing. In fact, I went out yesterday. My fin is loose, but still can't stand up. But I love being out there. I love paddling out there, and even just riding the waves and just laying on the board is fun. And just having a surfboard is fun. And that's about it. Mommy, I hope you have a happy birthday. I'm sorry I can't be there to help you celebrate and to sneak down from Boulder and bring bagel sandwiches, but I will make up for it when I get home. And I hope you like the presents. I just wanted to get you a little something from Australia. And Daddy, I hope you're doing good. Thank you for all your cute email messages. It always brightens my day to see, hey, dork face, dork butt, on the edge. And I hope you guys aren't laughing too much at my beautiful voice on this thing. Bridget sent me a tape of her talking on it when I first got here, and she copied this tape I had given her sophomore year in high school before she left, saying, how much I was going to miss you when she was transferring to East, and it's hysterical, my voice and how I sound, so I hope this doesn't come back to haunt me. I hope everyone else is doing great. Ma, I can't wait to hear about your great trip to the East Coast. My friend Carrie from Connecticut kept asking me all about it, where you went to in Maine, and because she really misses that good seafood on the East Coast. And Bones, I hope all your reading and all your hard work in school is going well. I'm sure you're going to bring home straight A's. David, I hope you had a good time in Snowmass. Hope everything's going well for everyone. And I love you all very much. I miss you. I'm excited to see you. And thanks again for everything. Take care. I love you. Bye-bye.